Welcome to This Is What the Gospel Sounds Like. We are a K-pop Demon Hunters podcast where we are looking for all sorts of gospel handles in a really fantastic movie, K-pop Demon Hunters. Have you seen it yet? My name is Sarah Crowder. I teach theology in Las Vegas, and I am a full-time PhD student doing my comprehensive exams. And with me is Andy Jones, pastor, author. Andy, tell us what's going on with you.
Uh, Not a lot. It's almost summer, and I'm looking forward to that. But I would like to know, Sarah, you just said like you're going through your comprehensive exams, and
Yes.
I have not pursued a PhD. So can you inform me and everyone else what is involved with a comprehensive exam? Because it sounds very difficult to me.
Okay. Okay, we have to be careful because I have to really put on restraint whenever I
Okay.
talk about PhD because it's very easy to get long in the description. So I'm going to try to keep it tight. The PhD program, the Doctor of Philosophy program at Concordia Seminary St. Louis, I am in a particular program for Reformation history. And so that program is a 7-year program. And the first 3 years is coursework, where you take 2 courses a semester, and it's called reduced residential, which means instead of being full-time residential PhD students, which sounds awesome from what I hear, it sounds like a lot of beer and pizza at your professor's house, which I have not got. I have had beer and pizza at one professor's house, but not like weekly,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. Hmm.
vibes. Um, which is fine when you're doing a PhD. It's not weird or anything. Um, but anyway, see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, there's all these stories that come in the background. For Reformation studies, you have to do 3 languages. So that's why I took Latin, German, and French as my 3 languages, and then 2 sets of coursework where I would spend 2 weeks in June and 2 weeks every January, where we would read like 20 books for each class, and then we'd come and talk about the sources. And it
Uh-huh.
was very fun, but intense because there would be writing papers and all this kind of stuff. Now I'm in comprehensive exams, and so you have reading lists. And generally, what happens for a comprehensive exam, some are oral, some are written. And so, like, I think the guys who do practical have a written exam, but for Reformation history, it's a 3-hour oral exam
Oh,
over, yeah, over all of the sources. And so I have
okay.
a required book list of historiography, which is the study of the thoughts of history, of like how history is written and how it's had different kind of developments. And then there is, of course, Renaissance and Reformation book list, which is 2 book lists in one, because the Renaissance is really important along with the Reformation. And then you get to pick other book lists. Well, anyone who's doing Reformation studies right now knows you cannot know the Reformation without the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages is the harvest of medieval theology, as Obermann would say. And so Middle Ages was a go-to. And then I could have done like American Christianity, or there's some other book lists, but I chose because Augustine or Augustine, depending if you're Cambridge or Oxford, and I don't know which is which. Um, Augustine's huge, so I chose early church. Plus, I really enjoyed early church. I feel like early church is, I don't know, I just feel like that's like a helpful. So I'm doing early church, Middle Ages, Run Rep, and historiography. So I have about 80 titles for sure, but then I have to choose a couple
80.
to do. Yeah. And so I have to try to read all these books and be ready for a 3-hour oral exam. And I'm going to try to do it in December before Christmas break so that I can like take a break. But I am telling you, it's been really fun doing the comprehensive exams because I'm doing 2 a week. I have a study partner, Jason Oakland, and I meet once a week, and we have the same book lists,
Uh-huh.
and we've had all the same classes together, and we started at the same time. And so that's been really, really helpful. And so we practice having the conversations. And then I've broken I could probably talk for 2 hours about how I'm doing this. But basically, I like to pretend like I'm Shohei Ohtani. Do you know this baseball player? Have I
I know the
talked to you about
baseball
this at
player,
all?
but what do you mean when you pretend you're Shohei Ohtani?
So, okay, I'm getting too long, but I'll just say quickly. Shohei Ohtani, when he was in high school, there was this very popular track coach in Japan. And he used the Harada method. And the Harada method is a way of breaking down a singular goal with like 8 pillars around it to help you achieve this one audacious goal. And Shohei's goal was he wanted to be the #1 draft pick out of high school into whatever the next stage is for Japanese baseball. And so I had gotten this email about the Harada method. I'm like, that sounds weird and fun. I could do that for my comprehensive exam. And so I watched a couple videos, I did some reading, and I made my own Harada map of how to pass comprehensive exams without destroying my life. Because
Hmm.
the PhD can be very all consuming. And so I am trying to make sure I'm getting plenty of sleep, my family is being uh, I do a hard stop at 4 o'clock every day and make sure I'm spending quality family time. And then I have little fun side quests that I do. For example, Zooms with Dr. Cole, or every 16 books, I like to do a little celebration.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do a study trip in Ireland, and I've got a book on reserve that I'm going to see at the Marsh Library, which is one of the world's oldest public libraries. 1500, printed in 1500, before the Reformation, book of
Nice.
Eusebius and the Venerable Bede. Isn't
Okay.
that gonna be so fun? So, like, making it fun so that every day there's, like, little fun things. So I have, like, little targets, and so, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I'm just deciding to enjoy it.
You sound much more excited about it than I would be about it, which is why you're doing
Like
it
it?
and
I
I'm
think
not.
it's you don't have to have a PhD. You don't have
I do
I
not.
don't have
That's
to have
true.
a PhD, and but it is been a transformational experience, and it's helping me be a better teacher because I'm learning how to do critical thinking, and reading books is really fun. I love it. I love reading books, and and you can't read without writing, and so I'm writing every day, which means I'm not writing fun things like I wish I was writing more articles for 15, 17, or things like that, but I am writing a lot every day, and it's good. But
Good. Thanks for
one more
sharing.
thing, well, thank you for asking. I love to I'm having a really fun time, and I could tell more, but I'm gonna limit it to that. But I do have one show and tell really quick before I
Okay,
just
go.
wanna share it. Teacher appreciation this year was great. I got some very nice, thoughtful gifts from my students, but one, student brought me this.
Boy,
Isn't that awesome? I
you
think I'm
know,
gonna put it in my garage next to my favorite Lord of the Rings posters. It's like
that's huge.
and what I love it too is like this is like a screen, and then here's like their actual like it's a very high quality poster. I didn't look below, the demons are down below. And
Nice.
there's the Han moon. And dude, oh, can you imagine wearing shoes like that with spikes? That's so hardcore. Anyway,
Love
it's
it.
I really like it. So thank you to my student who gave me this. It was really nice. I'm really thankful.
These intros just serve to make me envious of the various the things that your students get you.
Now
So,
you
you
got a
know,
nice shirt here. You've got
this is
a
true.
derp that
My derpy
you've got a
shirt.
nice
That
mug. You don't
yeah,
need to be jealous.
that's true. I did get this. Well, I actually won this in a silent auction, but still, it's mine now. So
Yeah. I don't mean
anyway,
to make you jealous, but I was very floored. I was very overwhelmed with
that's pretty
joy
great. Yeah.
over that. But let's get into it.
Yes.
Today, we're going to dive back into the world of fan theories, which you're a fan, I'm a fan. Some of my students are fans. And we have news. The news is there will be another K-pop Demon Hunters movie. It will be
Uh-huh.
years in development.
Uh-huh.
What are the fan theories that have captured our attention? We've talked about this before, but I think it's good to get back into the fan theories, and especially what would hit so well when we're thinking with our gospel lenses, like what would be really good.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Uh, I've heard a number of theories. Like, do you want to sort of like rank these? Like, we'll share
Ooh,
back
okay,
and we'll share back and forth a theory or two or three,
okay,
and you just say like, what do you think of that? Out of 10, how likely do you think that is?
yeah,
Okay.
we can do a sliding scale.
All right.
Go for it. Let me hear what you got.
So let's start here. Okay. So one of the theories that I have seen is that uh, Mystery Saja and Baby Saja are still alive, and the reason for this is in the final fight that's taking place. We never see either of them actually killed, Like we see Jinu and his disappearance, which is a whole different, side quest of theories. We see Abby clearly killed, and we see Romance clearly killed. But Mystery and Baby Saja are both not shown to be, exploding like Romance and Abby. So, what do you think? Are Mystery and Baby Saja still alive?
I mean, I want to take a step back before I take a step forward into a
Okay.
prediction, because my question is, what are Baby Saja and Romance and
Okay.
Mystery?
Okay.
Because I get a sense that they are different than Jinu. when
Okay.
when we're in the underworld realm, which I still would like a name, and I would like to know more about the Korean kind of folkloric,
Uh-huh.
take on this kind of spirit world. We have a whole host of different types of creatures there. We have water demons, like that are named in the movie. We
Uh-huh.
have the Saja Boys, which is a demon boy band. Like that's clearly they're all demons, even though I like to think of Jinu as a human who has become like a demon, but he's not like actually a demon, right? But then these Sasha boys, they feel like kind of zombies to me. The way that they are
Okay.
before they get beautified, they are they are kind of grotesque and then get transformed. Whereas Jinu, if I may be so bold, is looking pretty okay either way, right?
Uh-huh.
Like he doesn't have this kind of glow up, but the Saja boys, like the boy band members, get this kind of transformational look,
Yeah. I
kind of
gotcha.
like you have with the stewardess or I should
Sure.
say flight attendant
Yeah.
appears
On
human
the
but
plane. Yeah.
actually has a different form.
Yeah.
Are this yeah, are the Saja boys boy band, romance, mystery, baby Saja, these guys,
Mm-hmm.
are they human in the same way Gino is?
This brings us to another theory that I'll put
Oh
to
no.
you.
Okay. Wait, before we move on, I think we got to get the band back together, right? I feel like everybody's got to come back and like I feel like what is death to a demon that's been kind of just cast back? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a good
I
question.
feel like
Yeah.
it was perfectly ambiguous to the reality of this demon world. I don't think we have a lot of information to go off of as
That's
far
fair.
as the end of all things and the destruction of these these guys. I don't really think we have enough information to make a prediction one way or the other, but I would be shocked if they are not in the next movie in some form.
Okay.
Now I'll give it back to you. What
So
is your
so the other
speculation?
theory that I've seen that I think is interesting is it's the sort of the origin story of the other four Saja boys besides Genu. And one of the theories is that they were K-pop stars that sold their souls in order to
Oh,
become K-pop stars. And the place this theory comes from is when they're in the doctor's office and the doctor has all the different photos on the wall. There's one particular photo that fans have pointed to that there's four people with the doctor, four members of a boy band that you could kind of see how at least some of them look like the
hmm.
various Saja boys. So that is one theory.
Interesting. I love it. I don't
It's a
care.
fun theory. I
It's
don't know
so
if that was true, but I like the theory. You know what I mean?
well, so and I had also heard, and I am not so I have to be careful. I am an obedient wife for my husband. And he loves that I love K-pop Demon Hunters. He is much of a fan. And he loves that we watch K-dramas together. So we are like we love this world. But he has put his foot down. This happens very rarely in our marriage where he will put his foot down and the foot, has spoken and this is just a boundary that we're trying to keep. And he has asked me to not go into the world of BTS because my
Oh,
my YouTube is feeding me lots of BTS, and BTS is coming to Vegas this weekend. And I could even, but my husband has said, I think I would like to not add BTS into the mix if that's, okay. And I was like, that's fair because I, am prone to becoming a fan of things. Why am I bringing up BTS? Of course, I don't know anything about BTS, even though they're in my feed all the time, and the behind the scenes of their music videos are fascinating, and I love reaction. But I'm trying really hard to restrain myself from becoming a army, as they would say. But I think I had seen that another, Korean K-pop boy band, Stray Kids, could also be some of like, there's some theory also that some of the pictures are
Mm.
depicting not the Saja Boys,
Oh,
maybe Stray Kids or other boy
gotcha.
bands, like cameos or, like, possibly like that. So I could go either way, but I
Uh-huh.
feel like I saw a pretty convincing, like, side by side of I think it was Stray Kids maybe, and the boy band. I don't know. All
I
I
like
do
that.
know is that
Nice.
the doctor's office scene and like, the tonics and stuff, it's so fun to see that happening in this movie because it happens all the time in the Korean dramas, and I'll never get tired of seeing the truly heroic act of love in a Korean drama is when one character buys something at the pharmacy for another character, and that is just, like, seals deal in the relationship of, like, "Did he just buy her Band-Aids at the" like, and it's always, like, this
Interesting.
whole thing of, like, "I'm gonna go to the pharmacy, I'm gonna pick this up for her,"
Uh-huh.
and they bring it, and it's just like, "Oh, it's getting real, it's getting"
Interesting. Okay.
it's so fun. Oh, theories. I
Okay.
I we gotta see the Saja Boys again. We gotta have there's gotta be the conflict.
Well, we'll get to something else later, but do you have
Okay.
any other, like, theories that you'd like to put forward as, interesting from you or your students?
Well, so I did ask my students today because we were talking. I told them we were recording today. I said, "What is your theory?" And I had like 4 of them.
Uh-huh.
They're convinced Jinu is coming back, and I'm like, I think that's gotta be like,
Yeah.
I don't even think that's a theory. I think that's just. I think that would be shocking if Jinu does not come back in some form, whether it's a
Yeah.
you know, I'm curious if it's a sword thing because I've seen a lot of things about, Jinu being in Rumi's sword. Is she able to communicate with him? Is he in another location? But there's gotta be a more Jinu payoff. I wanna know more about I need to know. I don't have a theory, but I need to know more about Rumi's dad. But then a theory that my students, shared today, which I was like, "That's why I love this movie." And one of my students said, "I think that Rumi is actually evil." And I was like, that's what is so fun about the movie is she's afraid of this kind of, the patterns and like she's hiding them. And so
Uh-huh.
now she's shining it and she is flawed, right? In the sense of she has these human patterns that she's inherited. And so I quickly said to my student, because they were getting ready for their tests and I wanted to review original sin and actual sin and just kind of talk about this inherited, defect that Rumi has like original sin that it's not who we are, but we have this, sin in us and the sin that we commit. Could Rumi be t uh, somehow deceived or, go on some sort of villain arc? I can't imagine they would do that to all the children, but I think there is something interesting in the reality that what makes K-pop Demon Hunters so fun is the flawed characters that they are, like, they're every one of them has, like, these flaws and weaknesses,
Sure.
which I
Sure.
think is what makes it really fun. But what do you think Rumi and Jinu, what do you think we'll see in the future?
I don't know, like, I didn't even write down "Will Genu return?" I wrote down "How will Genu return?" as
Okay,
my
okay.
question, because I do
Yes.
think he will return, and this is what like, if I'm writing the movie and, like, this is the plot point that I wanna follow, this is where I go. Guima is gone. Guima has been defeated,
Okay.
and now there needs to be someone else that rises up to, like, take over the demon underworld, whatever you wanna call it, and the person that will emerge as the obvious candidate to take over is Rumi's father. I think Rumi's father will have been like quasi imprisoned by Guima, something like that, punished for, you know, infiltrating Earth and not getting permission to do it, something like that. and then he'll come forward, released, and be like the new big bad.
Mm.
And the storyline will be kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxy 2 storyline where, the dad is like, an eternal being, and Chris Pratt's character is, tempted into that sort of a thing. And I think Rumi will have sort of that tug of like, this is your dad.
Rumi could
And
be tempted to know her mom more, or to know how to have a relationship with the
right.
demon who's sacrificed themselves for you, or you could see it as a tantalizing kind of temptation.
Yeah. You know, power there, all sorts of things. Just the dynamic of like what is good, what is evil can come out of that sort of a thing. So I think that's where they'll probably go is Rumi's father will become sort of the new big bad. And I think just a guess, Jinu will somehow come through that. I don't think Jinu will be there right away. Jinu's going to come back halfway through the movie, maybe 2/3 the way through the movie, and come back sort of in a, I don't know, reminder of what is good sort of way, perhaps.
Mm.
That's my sort of guess as to where it could be taken. But I am usually wrong about these things, so we'll see.
That's fun. Yeah, I don't know. What could be the worst thing that would happen?
The worst thing?
Mhm.
I mean, I think the worst thing that could happen is if it just never gets made. That would be the worst thing
Ah,
that could happen.
that's
I think
true.
this I think the second worst thing that could happen is if they sort of just abandon the characters they've created and just move on to a new group right away, like
Mm.
a new hunter band, and now Huntrix is just like done and adjacent and not important. I think I would struggle with that. I want to hear the story of Rumi and Mira and Zoe
Mm.
more
So you
than
don't want a
a new
Sunshine
story.
Sisters
No,
movie?
no.
Okay.
I mean, Sunshine Sisters would be okay, but I don't think we're there yet. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm saying a future band, like a post Huntrix band. I
Oh, I
don't want
see.
that.
I
Um,
see.
I could do with like prequel stuff, but I think that's like a fourth movie, not a second movie, personally. But
Oh, I like that. I like the way you're thinking for
oh yeah,
movies. I
we're
mean,
going for a
there'd
long
be,
time with
yeah,
this, right?
I mean, oh, that's that's pretty good.
Do you want to have another ridiculous one?
Yes.
I don't think this one is right. I think this one is wrong, but I'm going to present it anyway.
Okay.
There's a fan theory that Jinu is Rumi's father. Yeah, that's the face I made.
Hey, you can't do that to all those little girls.
Here's the
It's too weird.
evidence. Here's the evidence. Guima has like deleted all of the good memories that Jinu has, and he only has the bad memories. The bad memories are turned up to 11 and the good memories are gone. And so sort of the thought is that Jinu, you know, had this relationship with Rumi's mom, and then Guima like deleted it from his memory bank. And the reason that like Rumi and Jinu are drawn to each other is in this sort of protectory way. Clearly, I don't find that to be the case. Like, there's too much romance that is possible. There's too much chemistry, I think, for that to be a father-daughter relationship, and it doesn't fit with like things you've pointed out to me about like uh, how K dramas work with like the scene where Jinu knocks Rumi over,
Right.
like that's like a trope, right?
Right.
That
Totally.
doesn't work in the father-daughter sense. Like that
No.
just doesn't sell. So I've seen that I've seen that theory. I don't like that theory. I don't think that one is going to turn out to be true.
Yeah.
You got any more?
I think well, more than just like theories, I think I have hopes. And
Okay.
I hope what we get is more like very distinctly Korean things. I
Hmm.
hope that we don't get a global sort of response, but I think what makes it so unique and powerful is its Korean-ness. And so I
Hmm.
hope that we get more of that and not something that is more broad. I love the nature of it being extremely Korean. I hope that, we get I mean, just the artistry of the like, I hope that they're able to keep a lot of the original creators who worked
Yeah,
on the art and on the music and on the story. I hope that it is something with depth, because I think the issue of shame, the issue of hiding yourself from your friends, is such a good theological, deep, rich topic. Are they able to do another topic or like overarching kind of struggle that will have the same um, weight of shame or guilt or
sure.
isolation or, like those are universal. And that's why it makes it so fun for us to talk theologically about it. If it's just a romantic story, or if
Yeah,
it's just a get the band back together, like maybe there's something like that. That would be
sure.
fun to watch. But I hope that it stays Korean and I hope that it stays deep, um, so that it's can hit the audience in that way. But I think those are my main hopes because it's so nice. And I hate to be down on Peter Jackson, but like when you see Lord of the Rings and how much care they put into Lord of the Rings, and then you see The Hobbit and how that kind of fell apart and they kind of picked it up and it was kind of forced by the studio. I'd like to not see that happen with K-pop Demon Hunters. I'd like to see the original care and the original team and the original kind of goal of storytelling being the focus rather than just you know what I mean? Like checking boxes of what happened previously. And I think that we have a good I trust that they will do their best on that. I do trust that, but I've seen it go bad before,
Sure.
in my own mind without being too mean, but
Yeah, there's a lot more money involved this time than there was last time.
and that's
Like,
scary
yeah,
bec because the money is what can really make things get really kind of corporate and like, yeah, I hope that the money will be well supporting the art and not
sure.
controlling the art. But
Yeah,
money is power, and power can destroy that kind of stuff.
it's true. Do do you want the story like, the original film is obviously sort of Rumi centric. Would you prefer it be Rumi centric in a sequel, or would you rather see it center Mira or Zoe?
Hmm, I don't know. I'm trying to think of examples of other movies where sequels are focused on like Anne of Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables, there's lots of different characters. And actually, I think you could make an argument that the first book is really focused on Marilla as her caregiver and her transformation, but Anne
Hmm.
is the main character. But that doesn't mean that the other characters don't have a major part in it. I think you need I think that I would love to see development across the board, but I feel like it makes sense for a property to be focused on the main.
Sure.
Like I'm even thinking of the new Star Wars movies where they kind of brought in other characters and you kind of thought they were gonna have storylines, and then the storylines, like, disappeared, and that was weird. You
I
know what
mean
I mean?
the successful enterprise that's done this is the Bridgerton series.
Oh,
Um,
I don't watch Bridgerton.
yeah, like I am not recommending Bridgerton. It's definitely not safe for children. But like the books, it's a large book series, and there's a large family, and each of the books is about a
Is
different
a different family member.
family member is like the
I
center
see.
character, and so
Yeah. So that's been
Like, that
successful, but
storytelling
that's
has been done.
TV. That's like
That's
soap
TV.
opera-y though, like, that's not a
Yeah,
movie. I totally see what you're saying though, like, each season is focused on a different family member.
yeah. So, like, could that could work in, like, a trilogy sense in this way. Like, you could do sort of origin story of the 3 characters in different ways. Um, I don't know what they will do, but I think I was just sort of curious about that in the sense of, like, maybe another good example is like X-Men or something like that. Like,
Mm,
you you get you get sort of main characters throughout, but then you get like true origin stories of some of them, perhaps not
mhm,
all of them.
mhm.
Um, and it sort of like shifts in focus. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to like wonder at what will they do, because my head, like, I can see where they go with Rumi probably, but I just can't see where they go with the other two. So that's sort of where I'm at. But
Well, you got me thinking with the X-Men because that's comic book
yeah.
narrative, and K-pop Demon Hunters is so unique because it's so much about music, and really K-pop Demon Hunters is about the creation of their music
Mhm.
and the process of that, and so I feel like in order for it to keep its form, it has to be something about music, and whether that like, I've always said kinda like that the fans are, like, one of the main characters of the movie, and maybe in that sense, that the music or the creation of the music or the need for a music or the performing of music has to be part of the scenario,
Sure.
and maybe that is the through line, whether it's roomy focused or whatever, it has to be focused on the fans and what the fans are needing, and, like, maybe do they I don't know, but that's
Yeah, that's
interesting.
good.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think where I was going, like, in my mind with, like, if you go to, like, Rumi's stories about shame, as you said. Okay, so if you go towards Mira or you go towards Zoe, what do we know about these two that brings us that big theme? And I think with Mira, you can definitely get like the big theme of estrangement. Like,
Yeah,
that could be a huge theme that you could really play on.
yeah,
Um, with Zoe, I think it's more of a belonging theme.
mhm,
And I think like you could do either of those. Like, that both of those are possible. Um, I just don't know how you do it without it just being like a ton of flashback.
right,
Um, which maybe that's fine, but yeah. That's sort of where my brain was going with it, with big themes.
yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Whatever they
trust.
do, I'm gonna
I'm
watch
gonna
like 10
trust.
times.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna trust that it's gonna be okay. It's just a full circle it back. One of the main themes that I try to get my students to see in class is when we're reading the Bible. So many times we think of ourselves as the main character, and that's gotta
Mm,
kind of follow and fit into what we're about, and to try to see how all of scripture is really pointing to the person of Jesus and his work and God's faithfulness and his promises. And so it's kind of fun to have these conversations of like what's going to come next and like what we want and all these kinds of things. And it kind of reminds me too of like how in the story of life we always think of ourselves as the main character of our own life, which is totally normal and appropriate to do. But when we think biblically about how we live our lives and how God is working through his people, uh, Jesus is the main character. And it's like and that he invites us into his story and how there was a really cool thing at the youth gathering when they kind of talked about like Jesus as the author and like kind of creating this narrative. Whatever story might happen, we don't really know the end of our own stories even. But we know who's holding that pen. We know that he is ever changing And it sounds like no matter what may come, whatever themes we might face, it's kind of comforting to know that we have a savior and author who who gives promises and keeps his promises. So like the sequel or whatever's coming next, like
Yeah.
there's some excitement because we don't know. Like I'm at this place right now in my life where my son's away at school, my daughter just graduates. Like feels like a lot of uncertainty, but it's kind of like it's kind of fun to kind of sit back and be like, I don't really know what's going to happen next, but I know God has this in His hand and His
Yep.
care, and
Yep.
trusting in that. What do you think when you're thinking about narratives and stuff?
That's good. I think in my experience of like reading the scriptures, like one of the things that I do that most people just have never done before is I like to read like a whole book of the Bible in one sitting.
Mm,
Um, Preferably listen to, like that's easier for me. But when you do that, like if you listen to a lot of the Bible, like in a short time span, one of the things that you will notice very quickly is that like characters that you think are a big deal aren't on the page for very long.
mm,
Like you sprint through Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, like they're just there and gone again in the story. And what you notice very quickly is that God's the main character. He's the
mhm.
only one who's still there. Everyone
Right.
else is so fleeting. Um, and I think that's it's an important lesson for us. One of my favorite psalms is Psalm 90, which sort of gets at this sense of teach us to number our days so that
Mm,
we can get a heart of wisdom. Help us to understand that we're not here for a long time on this earth, and as much as we want to have main character energy, um, part of life is knowing that we are a part of something so much bigger,
mm,
and we're a part of a humongous community, and there's wisdom and understanding that when I'm here on this earth, there's stuff for me to do, and and yet, you know, this this world is going to continue after I'm gone. This
mm,
world, this my church is going to continue after I'm gone. Whatever it happens to be, I'm not indispensable to all of this. I'm
mm.
actually superfluous to it, and there's great freedom in that.
Yeah,
There's there,
freedom.
there's great freedom in the ability to take advantage of what you've been given because it is superfluous in some sense,
Mhm.
um, which allows you to take risks, I think, in a different sort of way because that the main character is going to catch you if you screw up too bad, that sort
Right.
of thing. But yeah, that's where
That's
my
good.
brain went.
No, no, that's really good. And the freedom in that, the freedom of a Christian to realize we're not the main character, but that we have someone like you said earlier, you about Maggie King and like I trust their judgment,
Yeah,
even more so.
right.
Our
They're going to
the
write a better
creator,
story than me, right?
yeah,
For sure.
yeah. But to know that God has this plan of salvation and restoration, and that we're only in it in a small part of the story, and we don't see all of the things that are going behind the scenes, but we know that God has good promises and He keeps His promises, and that can give us freedom to
uh,
just be doing joyful things like podcasts about K-pop demon hunters. That is
exactly.
just kind of fun way of just thinking about the goodness of God. That's kind of wild, but that's so true that
Yeah.
in this life we are free to love God and love one another and love art and love children's movies about Korean music. I mean, it's pretty wild the world that we are in. It's pretty fun to just be in the moment and know our place as creatures and not the creator and just
Yeah.
rest in
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
That sounds really gospelly good news of our creator God who loves us and wants us to delight in creation.
Yeah. Love it.
Love it. Awesome. Well, we'll talk more. We want to know your thoughts and theories, guys. We need some
Yeah.
more theories. I love this. And we want to talk some more. Who are some of your favorite characters that we should talk about? Let us know and we will talk some more. Thank you.